start small and start somewhere because otherwise you might not start at all.
Welcome to Women Thrive Season 5. This season, you can expect incredible conversations with women from all around the world. We at Women Thrive, not only do we put on incredible conversations with women, host events, retreats, publish a magazine, publish books, and we have created a platform for every woman to shine and share her message. So you right now tapping into a podcast that is globally recognized as the place for women to be and share their message. Be inspired, be part of the conversation, and let's thrive together.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Women Thrive podcast. My name is Abigail Rebecca. We are coming to you today. We're going to be talking about lots of different things today, but most importantly, we're going to be talking about the systems that you can create or you can get someone else to create that support you and your business. I would think that it's more than likely that you're listening to or watching this podcast because you are a woman in business. Maybe you are running a business full time. Maybe you have a side hustle. Maybe you are running a project. And the whole reason that maybe you created your business was to be able to have the freedom, have the time freedom, be your own boss, do things on your term, work to your schedule. But what can often happen is that we set out with the best intentions and then find out that we've built businesses that are so reliant on us that actually we don't have the opportunity to do that. Well, what if I told you that there are certain things that you can put in place that will really be able to help support you so that you can, of course, turn up in your business and do the things that you need to do, but also that are able to sustain you so that you can go and get rest and do all the other things that you want to do. This is what we're going to be speaking about today. So welcome to the podcast. This is a two-way conversation. We'd love to hear from you if you have any thoughts or comments or aha moments about our episode today. I would really love to invite our wonderful podcast guest on today. Her name is Gail Fraser. She is a systems expert and the founder and CEO of Worksimple. She helps creatives and industry expert professionals leverage workflow automation so they can show up more vibrantly for the work that lights them up. Based in St. Paul, Minnesota, she is an active community builder, local networker extraordinaire, speaker, of course, and host of the Young Professional Workshops, Designing Your Dream Career, and Let's Be Friends, Building Community in Adulthood. Gail, welcome to the podcast. It's wonderful to see you here.
Thank you for having me.
I really love what you do. You know that we've had conversations about this in the past about I love a good system. I really do. And at Women Thrive, we love a good system. It's the infrastructure, it's what the business is built on. And I find it really difficult to comprehend how I actually managed to run a business before I had these systems in place, but I did. But oh my goodness, I worked hard. So let's get into this because I know that we're going to have a really juicy conversation about it. And I know that you're going to be able to share your wonderful expertise as well. But before we do that, I'd love to know a little bit more about you. Obviously, that was your introductory bio, but Gail, why do you do what you do? Why is it so important to you? What's your story?
A great question. I never knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. I never had a clear vision or a clear calling, I suppose. And I dropped out of college at 19 and just feeling very directionless and very aimless. I've always been very motivated and wanting to work hard. And I had kind of 8 careers in 8 years early on. And what I found in each position was that I didn't like doing the menial admin tasks. I hated responding to the emails. I liked being organized, but felt kind of scattered. And so, in pretty much every role that I was in, I was like, well, how can I do less of that? Because that's what I'm bad at, and I don't want to do it. And so, selfishly, let's find a new way to do it. And as I did that, I was like, oh, well, this is what I like to do is building the systems that help me stay more organized, help me have to do less of the tasks that I'm bad at or hate keeping up with. And as a result, the team benefits from that. But also as a change maker in that way, I often felt really out of place in a corporate environment because it's my nature to challenge the way that we do things. And that does not work well always when you're supposed to be just kind of heads down listening to what you should be doing and not being like, well, what if we did this instead? And so I had a few friends in small businesses, a lot of creative people around me who were just like, oh, well, I need someone to come do that for my business. And that's where the idea of Worksimple came to be, where I was like, well, I could help people who actually want and need the help, and they're way more fun to work with. And now I primarily work with women solopreneurs in creative and the wedding industry and helping them build in the automation and the templatization and the organization that they need to have the time back and not feel frustrated and bogged down like I did in some of my early roles. And it's just so much more rewarding and fun.
Okay. I was really giggling to myself when you were talking about corporate and the challenges in corporate, because isn't it funny? There's a lot of organizations that bring people in because they want to have a leader that can challenge the status quo and create change. And then when it actually happens, they don't want that.
Yes.
Yeah, they don't want anything challenged. And where's the good in that? So I'm sorry that you've had that experience. I've also had that experience, and how wonderful now that we can run our businesses and not have to worry about that. And you are doing wonderful work in this world, working with the clients that you actually want to work with. And that's a really bespoke and niche industry. Is there a reason why you've chosen that particular industry?
It's kind of twofold. So my first clients were friends of mine who had their own businesses, and they just were by nature in creative industries. So the first one was a friend of mine who runs a brand design company. She does graphic design, brand photography, and I just love working with her creative energy. And it just kind of kept going from there. And at the time, I was also planning my own wedding. So I was talking to a lot of wedding vendors, planning my own wedding and meeting people in that industry. And I have a few friends in the wedding industry, a photographer and a planner. And I was just like, they need this too. And when you're doing the inquiry process and signing contracts, you're seeing kind of the underworkings of their business and what I normally work with. And I was like, I can help them. And I wanted to work with women and primarily solopreneurs or really small teams. And the wedding industry, especially, has an incredibly high concentration of women solopreneurs or small teams that are highly creative. And those were who I felt really drawn to. And early on in my business, I was really afraid to niche because you want to be taking any client and making money and generating revenue in your business. But I was like, this is a client base that sounds really fun to work with, and they need it too. And now I have a win-win because I know that if this is my target audience, I'll get to work with my ideal client, which are just like cool women who are really creative.
Yeah, they do sound really cool. I love that you do that. So, something that you said when you were talking about why you do what you do really struck with me. And you were talking about the fact that you like to find ways to work less, to work smarter, not harder. And I'm such a big advocate for this. I, in my business, with my work with other organizations like Women Thrive, for example, I am all about working smarter and not harder, because when you can be really, really intentional instead of running around, it's very easy to run around and look busy, isn't it? It's very,
Mm-hmm.
very easy. But actually, looking at ways where you can implement, where you can come in and use your zone of genius. And like you say, delegate other tasks. And some of those admin tasks that we might have been used to doing when we worked in corporate, for example, there are wonderful systems in place that can actually support that. And you were mentioning about automation. And so, can you tell us a little bit about that? Bearing in mind, obviously, there's going to be some women that are watching and listening to us today that might be very new on their journey. And I've never really heard about this before. And there might be some women that are already established and have got systems in place. But I think, your expertise, there's a lot to learn from you. So let's discuss.
I love it. Yeah, I think with my particular audience, all of my clients are service providers. They want to have this really custom boutique feel. Their personality is so much of what they give to their clients that there can be a lot of fear around having automation in their business because that feels impersonal. They want to have that high touch. I know everything that's happening in my business, but as a result, they get really overwhelmed. And if you're a photographer, you started your business because you love photography, not because you love responding to emails. And so that's where I kind of like to reframe how we think about automation, and especially in the work that I do. So I work primarily with CRMs, client relationship managers, and project management tools. And a CRM handles your invoicing, contracts, proposals. Those are all kind of documents that you can have a template for and build out pricing. If you're an industry that has custom pricing, you can do that in there. If you're like a photographer and you sell a package, you might have like, here's my $8,000 package and additional add-ons that you can select if you want to. And all of that can be templated. And that's like step one of making your life easier, because putting together a custom proposal every time takes time. I'm someone who hates putting together a custom proposal. And so let's figure out how we shrink down the amount of time and energy that you're spending on that piece while still delivering a beautiful proposal and a really nice product for your client. And then there's the email templatization, which is, again, there's this like fear of, well, if I automate, it's not me. And I hear that a lot from my clients. And a template versus having like a chatbot write your email is like a template's your voice. A lot of my clients are sending the same email manually like 12 times a week. And it might have like 2 word changes, but they have it all in their head. Like it's already templated in their head. It's just not out. And so we just kind of take what you've already written. Maybe it's genericized like a tiny, tiny bit, but then you never have to send it again. It can just go out at the right time, whether you're working a wedding and you're not available, or whether you're sitting at your desk and you could have time to do it, but you get to spend your energy on other things. And if you're creative, you want to be spending your creative energy on things that are creative and light you up, instead of taking not only your time, but your energy to kind of do the menial tasks that are repetitive, that feel like, oh, I have to do this again. And a lot of that stuff can be automated and templated in a way that still feels custom and authentic. And that's what I try to focus on with my clients.
You're completely right. You can still make it very personalized, even though it might be an automated email that's going out. If I use Women Thrive for an example, we're on the Women Thrive podcast. You would have experienced that when we onboarded you as a speaker. So there would have been a series of automated emails that came out, and I'm sure you would have known, being you, that they are automated. Ramonda isn't there like every day sitting and posting off emails to everyone, and she doesn't have the time to do that. Ramonda Jan, who's the founder of Women Thrive, and the emails come from her, but the emails do come from her. And you're so right when you say that.
Hmm.
They come from her. They come from her heart. They come from her vision. So the emails are from her. It just might not be necessarily that she's sitting there and pressing the button. It's
Yes,
been set up and it's already been automated, and there's a trigger that will go out instead of her personally doing that. So I see that this can be really, really personalized.
totally. And to your point, it's like Ramonda can't send out every single email that is associated with Women Thrive, but it's still her brainchild and her ideas. And here's the experience that I want to provide my clients or my speakers in her case. And then you can have things that are just sent out at the right time. And that also provides a really good client experience because I'm not waiting around for when you or when Ramonda have a minute to send something out. I'm just getting it when I expect to receive it. And that builds trust. And it makes it just a really smooth and easy process for both sides.
And also time zones as well. If you've got
Mm-hmm.
clients I've got clients in America, I'm not going to be sending them an email at 2 o'clock in the morning. If they suddenly decide to sign up for one of my programs, my expectation is if I go and buy a program online, for example, I will get an email that will say, we've got it, this is your invoice, and these are the
Mm-hmm.
joining details, so I can start getting going straight away. My expectation is that I'm not waiting until the next day, until that person wakes up and then
Right.
is able to send me all the details. So it's so efficient.
Yes. And we love that.
We love it. You were saying that I'd love to hear from you actually in your experience. Why you've already mentioned there that some people are resistant because they don't feel that it's personalized. What else do you come across in terms of the resistance to automation, or do you do you get resistance around it on how it would work?
That's the key. The it doesn't feel personalized, or my clients are used to XYZ level of personalization, which is also funny in the wedding industry because most of the time you have a client one time because they're having one wedding.
Well, you tell
And
me.
so there's a little bit of this like, well, your new clients don't know that your old clients expected X, Y, and Z, and we can still build them a really great client experience, and they're going to have nothing to compare it to. And so there's a little bit of that. And I think the other piece is less resistance and more not knowing what's possible. And we all have build ways of doing things. We're just like, and now this is the way that I do it. And we either get busy and don't have time to challenge that, or we don't know that there are other options. And that's where having someone come in with fresh eyes and be like, okay, well, we could automate this or have this trigger this and this and this. And maybe we build out a nurture sequence for your course or whatever. And then they get to see, like, oh, I didn't think about that. And so it's a little bit, the resistance is really, I see on the like, but I want to touch everything and make sure it's perfect. And the other piece is really just not knowing what's possible or not being able to conceptualize it or put it into action on your own.
When we were talking off camera before we hit the record button and started the podcast officially, I asked you what was the biggest takeaway that you'd like to leave with the audience, and you said, I just want everyone to know that we deserve a better life. We don't, I'm saying verbatim here, by the way, but you were talking about we don't need to be tied to our business. We can create success within our business, but we can go and get a life. We don't have to be tied to our desk all the time. Why is that so important to you? Why is that the key takeaway from today? And it's like really the vision and the reason for why you do this as well, to be able to help women with that.
I think as someone who both has a lot of interests outside of what I do in my business and wanting the time to be able to do those things. I know in my intro, in my bio, I've talked a lot about community, and I do a lot of networking here in the Twin Cities. I'm a part of a lot of different groups, but I love going to those primarily groups of women and meeting other entrepreneurs and just getting to talk to people. My friends and community is really important to me. It's important that I can spend time with those people. And I can't do that if I'm just tied to my computer at all times. I can't be present with them and show up for them. We have a friend that just had a baby, and I can DoorDash them food from my computer, but I can't go and spend time with their baby if I'm chained to my laptop. And I want to be able to be present for those moments. And I think so many people leave the 9 to 5 to start their own business because they're like, yes, then I get to be more present in my life. And then, like you said, you get busy and you try to grow and scale your business, and then suddenly you don't feel present in your life anymore. And automation can really help give back a little bit of time, whether that's like, okay, I want to continue to grow and scale, and now I can take on an additional client because I have 10 hours of my week back, or it's spending time with your family, or it's doing your hobbies or trying something new. And especially with the creative audience, but I think this resonates for everyone, you want to be able to show up presently because that's how you do your best work. And if you start a business because you're really passionate about the work that you do, it's also really important to you that you do good work. And you can't do that if you're so tired and so bogged down with all of the more menial tasks that drain you when you want to be doing the stuff that just makes you feel excited and energized.
Yeah, it's for me, it's all about being and feeling inspired by things. And there are certain things that in terms of admin, I really, really love to do. Like, I love to create things on Canva. I do that within
Mm-hmm.
my business because that's my creative aspect. I love to go onto Instagram and work out what my grid's going to look like and use all my beautiful brand colors and things like that. But then there's other parts that I'm really good at, but drain me. And you're so right, because if you are not motivated by something, if you're not lit up by something, then that is then going to impact the business because we deserve, like you said before, we deserve to be lit up. We deserve to be able
Mm-hmm.
to do the things that we love. And some of those will be in our business and some of those will be outside of our business. And it's just really having the courage, I think, really, and that's a really good word for it, to delegate.
Mm-hmm.
And as leaders in our business, we need to get really good at delegating, whether that's delegating to a team member or delegating to someone that maybe you're collaborating with or delegating to tech.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same. You're delegating a task so that they can get on and do it. So it's the same thing. So I really, really love what you're talking about, the fact that it frees us up to go and do the things that we love.
Yeah. I think we all crave that. We all want that, to be able to show up the way that we want to. And I think that there are tools that can help you do that better.
Yeah. So if someone's watching or listening to us today and they're starting out in their business and what you've been speaking about has piqued their interest, like what's the first step? I mean, where do you even start? Because it can be a minefield, can't it? I would think
Mm-hmm.
that that might be something that puts people off as well. It's like they're in a rhythm, they know what they're doing, they're in their comfort zone, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I need to learn how to do this or I need to build this. And it just sounds like so much work. So I'm just not going to bother doing it. Like, what would you say to someone that is saying that? Obviously, hire you. I mean, that's the obvious.
That's it. Yes. And actually, in the new year, I will be doing a quarterly webinar, Operations 101, that's geared towards newer business owners. But I think that, especially if you've been running things a certain way and maybe you're kind of coming up on a rub point where you just don't know where to go from here, it can be really informational and it's super high level of like, what types of things do you need a tool to be able to do? And some of my recommendations. And the other place, if you're like, well, I don't have a project management tool, another thing that I see a lot is people get a CRM, which does all of the payments and invoicing and contracts and things like that. And they're like, great, that's my client relationship manager. All of my projects are managed. And they suck at task management. So a lot of the time, you have your projects as a whole, like payments managed. But if you have individual tasks in there, then like I see people use their notes app or post-it notes or their paper planner or whatever, and just still feeling chaotic and disorganized. And the tool that I like to use is called ClickUp. And on my website, I have a freebie that's the ClickUp template that I use with my clients. And so that can be a good place to start too, if you're like, oh, maybe that's something that I need. And ClickUp can also be a very overwhelming tool. So having a template that's like, okay, this is what someone else uses can be helpful as a starting point to get your feet wet and maybe have something that feels more approachable than trying to just like jump into something feet first when maybe tech is not your specialty and you feel overwhelmed just thinking about it. That sometimes that can be a really helpful place to start.
So is ClickUp like a project management tool then?
Yes.
Right. I've never heard of it.
It's I've been using it for like 4 years. It came on the scene around like maybe 5 years ago. And compared to some of the other, like I would say it's most comparable to Monday and Airtable as far as like capabilities, but it's kind of a level up from like an Asana. It does a really good job. And what I use it for most with my clients is giving you a high level view of what's going on, what you have to do across all of your projects, and kind of doing some of that auto deadlining and due dating so that you don't have to go into all of your projects and be like, this task is due on Friday and this task is due next Friday, which I would never do. And that's how systems fall apart. And so it can, especially for creative service providers, if you have like, I do these 5 tasks for all of my clients, and this one happens 30 days before the wedding, and this one happens 90 days before the wedding, it can do a lot of that for you. So you just like kind of click go with the template, and then tasks pop up on your calendar and you're like, okay, I'll have that done by Friday. And you don't have to really think about it beyond that. So I love that capability. And it's the best one that I've seen for doing that at a really low price point.
That's fantastic. So we'll put the link down at the bottom so that people can go over. And you said that there's a template as well to support that.
Yes.
It always helps. And it's a bit of a minefield, isn't it? Choosing systems. I mean, I think there's a few things maybe that I could introduce, but to be honest with you, if I think about personally within my business, I'm quite happy and confident with the tools that I have at the moment. But I remember when I first started my business, I was like, I don't even know where to start. And there were so many recommendations, and it's like, how do you decide? Like, how do you know what you need, what you don't need? Do you go for lots of different separate things, or do you go for a done for you system? Like, how on earth do you begin to even navigate that, Gail?
That's a good question. I think for what I see most often, if you're just starting out your business, it's cheaper to have different tools for everything. You're in Google Workspace, so you might be using the Google appointment scheduler and that for signing like contracts. You might be using Stripe, which is free for invoicing and payments. You're probably taking advantage of a lot of free tools. And that's a great place to start. But eventually that gets really overwhelming. And now you're tracking things across, and maybe you're starting to make some revenue that you can invest in a CRM, which is the next step. And I would ask around in your industry and see what people are using. So in the creative space, I see a lot of Dubsado and Honeybook. Honeybook, I think, only accepts payments in the US and Canada, but those are the two most common that I see here. And so if you look online for like, what CRM should I use as a creative service provider, you're going to get 8,000 recommendations and not know where to start. But if I go to a wedding industry networking event or I have friends in the industry and I ask them, I'm probably going to get two recommendations. Or maybe there's like a few others that are thrown in, but I'm going to hear the same tools said a lot of times. And that's generally a really good place to start. And so that's my first recommendation is don't go to Google, go to people and ask what they're using, especially if they're more established in their business than you are. There, it's going to be a really good place to say like, okay, well, that's working for them. It can probably work for my business too. And for the project management side, everyone has their own preferences. Again, I think that ClickUp is a really capable tool at a good low price point, but it can be really overwhelming if you don't start with the template. And Notion is kind of I think it's like the opposite of ClickUp. They're set up the opposite. And so some people really prefer Notion because it's very aesthetically pleasing and that works with their brain. And some people are like, that makes no sense to me. I'm going to use this one. But there are a million and one. Just start with one. And if you don't like it, it either isn't set up to meet your needs, or maybe you should just try something else. And that's where a professional too, if you have the means to hire someone in and delegate that out, can help you evaluate which is the right path.
Exactly. And that's when they need to come to you, Gail.
That's right.
Absolutely. So we are very, very excited to have you as a speaker on the Women Thrive stage. So as we are recording this, the summit is going to be next year, 2026. Can you believe it's 2026 next year? Crazy bonkers.
And we're coming up on it.
Oh my goodness. So we're only a few months out and we just love having you in the community. I'm really excited for your talk actually, because I know that it's going to be full of lots of practical takeaways in order to support yourself in your business. So can you can you give us a little bit of an insight as to what you're going to be speaking about on the summit, Gail?
It's a great thing. I think a lot of what we talked about today is how to trust in automation and templates and your tech tools to show up more vibrantly in your life so that you can kind of build the dream life that you envisioned when you started your business. So it's going to be, like you said, focused on a lot of practical tools. I'm a practical girl, but really how you can use that to show up as your most vibrant self.
Yeah, I love that. Gail, it's been an absolute pleasure having this conversation with you today. Is there a final thought that you'd like to leave with our audience today?
The final thought that I have is if you're unsure or you don't know where to start somewhere, test it on yourself, test it on a friend, see if it works for you and try it for a little bit. And if you hate it, you can always go back. But start small and start somewhere, because otherwise you might not start at all. And then down the line, it's a lot harder to patch up and try to fix everything. And you can just like make little tweaks over time.
Yeah. Start. We recorded the AM session of the speaker showcase this morning, and that was one of the themes. Don't wait for perfection. We're always waiting for the right things. I need to get everything set up. I need to get everything in place. I need to get all of my systems in place. And then what do? We then go and refine it because it has to be perfect. But actually go out and do it. Do it. And then you can always course correct along the way.
Yes. And people are understanding. You send them, hey, I didn't mean to send that out. This is something new that I'm testing. Can you give me feedback on it? People are like, I get it.
Yeah, whoops, I didn't mean to send that email without the link. Gail, where can people find you? Where can we find you online?
You can find me on Instagram at worksimple.io, and that's also my website. So that's a good place to find me as well.
Wonderful. So all of the links we're going to put down at the bottom. Please make sure that you go and follow Gail and check her out. And also, any questions? What I like about you, Gail, is that you make these things really simple, because sometimes there's a lot of jargon and it can be very,
Mhm.
very confusing. And if you're not sure about anything, then reach out to her and have a conversation. Gail will be able to help you with this. It's what she does, it's her zone of genius, and we get to experience her within this community as well. So, Gail, it's just been wonderful, wonderful speaking with you today.
Likewise, thanks for having me.
And thank you everyone for watching. So hopefully this has given you the push to go out there, make things happen, set up automated systems, set up a way to support yourself in your business so that you are creating success. And of course, you're working on your business, but it also frees you up to do the things that you love to do. And the everyday mundane tasks can be delegated. And as Gail has so brilliantly pointed out to us today, they can be delegated to a system. So we are looking forward to Gail's talk on the summit in 2026. We hope that you can join us then. Well, dependent on when you're watching this podcast, actually, tickets might be available now, or you might need to go on the wait list. But if you go over to the Women Thrive Summit website page, then you will be able to find out and reserve your place, and we'll put the links for that below as well. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on the next episode of the Women Thrive podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Women Thrive Podcast. I'm so thankful for you as a listener for spending time with us, myself and my co-host Abigail, to hear our conversations with our guests. If you have had the opportunity to hear our podcast, do make sure you leave a review and share this episode with your audience as well. This has helped us reach the 5 top % globally ranked podcast, as well as reach more than 30,000 downloads to date. Your support means so much to us, and this is how we get to reach more people around the world. At Women Thrive Media, we're here to amplify voices of women and empower women to take the center stage and shine a spotlight on their messages.